Welcome back to Crackerjack Movie Chat. As always, I am your host, Peter J. McCluskey, and with me again is Robert Tombe.
For the mother boxes.
And joining us this week, he is a comedian here in Glasgow. He and I used to co-host a show together that will remain nameless. It's Mr. Gabriel Featherstone. Gabe, how are you?
Hey, Pete, I'm doing good. I'm cheerful. I'm cheerful because my pet snake was constipated and now he's not. And so that's cause for celebration. I'm going to bake a cake. I'm going to bake a celebratory, my snake is no longer constipated cake.
But the question is that the biggest cause for celebration, or is the Snyder Cut the biggest cause for celebration? But we will answer that question. Yep, we will answer that question in the second half of today's show. So Robert and I were discussing last week. We think now that we're finally here at this momentous occasion, we thought now would be the perfect time to just go through Zack Snyder, a brief summary of all his films we've seen in lead up to us reviewing Justice League. So, guys, Snyder, what is your just immediate impression when you think of the man's work?
I've not seen a lot of his work. I've seen Watchmen and Batman vs. Superman are the two things of his I've seen before. And so the impression that I've drawn from just those two things is that, like, Watchmen is pretty good. It's not, it's not as nuanced as the original comic, and it misses the point of some of the ideas in it. And it's very frustrating that that the giant squid isn't in it. Because I love the giant squid in the original Watchmen comic, but it is a very enjoyable film. It captures the superficial, the aesthetic of the comic very well. It's got some amazing performances in it, and he's a very technically gifted director. Like, his fight scenes are always really like dynamic and cool. He's very good at telling stories with framing and juxtaposing objects. Like, very stylish filmmaker. Maybe potentially sometimes a kind of style over substance kind of filmmaker. Like Batman vs. Superman is a film I find very entertaining, but I don't necessarily think it's good. I think it's a film that is very competently made, but it's kind of, it's the kind of darkness of it. It feels like it's got a lot of wrong-headed creative decisions in it that are funny, like the whole, Batman decides not to murder Superman because their mums both have the same name, and Jesse Eisenberg. I really like Jesse Eisenberg as the weird, hyperactive, kind of Mark Zuckerberg-esque jelly bean. Is it jelly beans he eats? The Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor. I like Batman vs. Superman because it's silly and it's full of really funny, like forced, unrealistic dialogue, but it's also got cool fight scenes in it. It's kind of like a friend of mine called Batman vs. Superman the room of superhero movies, which is going a bit far, but I think it's entertainingly pretentious and silly. It thinks it's this big serious thing, but it's actually quite daft and nonsensical. But it's a bit like if the Teletubbies like formed a punk band. And it's like, we're rebels or anarchists. Like, no, you're not. You're very, very cute. You can't escape your inherent cuteness. That's what Batman vs. Superman is like. So yeah. In summary, very stylish director. Definitely very talented, but I don't go into his movies necessarily expecting them to make complete sense or to be I don't go into his movie expecting them to make complete sense or to have tremendous emotional realism or brilliant dialogue. So the Snyder Cut kind of surprised me. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going through it again just to see what I have seen. I've seen Dawn of the Dead, 300, The Watchmen. I haven't seen Sucker Punch, even though I keep saying I want to watch that. I haven't seen that. Man of Steel. Basically this, New Justice League. I may put up the controversial point that I actually prefer his Dawn of the Dead to the original. And I like the original. And don't you start with me. And I get the message. Do you know what? Do you know why I think I enjoy it? Because I am a Snyder fan, and I think I just get quite annoyed by the pretentiousness that the original tried to put forward. It's a zombie film. I enjoy zombie films. They're not I think you can count on like one hand how many, oh sorry, two hands maybe, how many of them are actually good. I think Dawn of the Dead, his one does hold up. I mean, I don't know if it was the first one that started bringing through the running zombies, but I mean, that for me changed the whole landscape anyway, because away with the shufflers.
I don't know if 28 Days Later was first.
Yeah, I was just going to say 28 Days Later would be the film that was before his Dawn of the Dead, and that's a film I'd hold up way higher than his Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, I will fight you to the death. They're not zombies. I need to be that guy. To defend my honour, Zack Snyder will be that guy.
Well, then, if you're going to say that they're not zombies in 28 Days Later, I'd say that none of the modern zombies are actually zombies, because let's face it, zombies come from the traditional voodoo hypnotized idea rather than living dead. So
we're having this.
I think there's a lot of different types of monster that are called zombies. Like you've got the kind of George Romero, shuffling corpses. You've got the kind of hypnotized, enslaved people, from kind of like voodoo myth. And then there's, the kind of 28 Days Later, Left for Dead. It's a kind of virus that makes people crazy and violent kind of zombie. I think all three of those things equally deserve the term zombie.
Yeah, the other films of his that I do enjoy, 300 is one of these ones where a lot of people say the storytelling doesn't really take me, but the visuals and the artwork, a lot of people say enjoy that about 300. The fight, I mean, I love 300. It's hard because I'm trying to find criticism. Try to find criticism, but I can't because my blind side of Zack Snyder's too strong. And 300, I'm going to say it. The story in 300, maybe the storytelling isn't so great. I'll go with that. But it is a goddamn beautiful film. Come on, agree with me in that one, please.
I have seen like maybe 5 minutes of footage from it. I do agree. Like it looks.
Yeah.
I think there's a problem with it where, like, from what people have told me, that the heroes are just the worst cunts, and so you don't feel a lot of sympathy for them.
Yeah,
but it does look really stylish. Like it does look like it doesn't look boring, and it does look very well made, which is something that I have seen Meet the Spartans, the Scary Movie style parody of it, and that is very disposable.
Sadly, I think there's probably a lot of people who've seen Meet the Spartans, but not 300. And
don't get the point.
And a lot of people who've probably seen Scary Movie and not Scream, and that's really sad to me.
When I was a kid, I really liked Scary Movie, but my favourite bits in it were all the bits that were copied verbatim from Scream, and then watched Scream later and then realised, it's actually Scream that I like, and all the bits that in Scary Movie that I thought was shit were just the bits of Scary Movie that were authentic and not stolen. So.
The Watchmen are the comics that I'll be honest with you, I haven't really read, so hands up to that. But taking it from a non-Watchmen comic reader, I do like the film. I got a comic book film from it. Totally, I think it did.
Yeah.
Without saying basically, it felt like a comic book film. It did. You're right, the stylized, the visuals there. It was kooky. The costumes, they never tried to. I imagine, again, I've not seen the original pictures, so I don't know what these characters would have looked like in the comics, but they didn't. They looked so comic-y to me. Whereas now you take the Marvel films and maybe to a certain extent some of the new DC, they try and modernise it and try and put their own spin on it. These just look such comic book characters.
Watchmen is one case where I think you can say, if you've seen the film, largely you know what it looked like in the comic. Like, it's very true in look to the comic, I'd say. Like,
it is true in look. It does, like, because obviously the to adapt the comic, the film would need to be like a fortnight long, because there's a lot of stuff in the comic that gets cut out, like all the prose sections and the they did put the pirate comic stuff back into. I've never seen the extended version of the Watchmen movie that has all the pirate comic stuff in it. But yeah, it's like I think it's Zack Snyder's best film, and I think it does like very faithfully adapt a lot of the comic, and and a lot of the strengths of the comic shine through, and it's a very stylish, fun movie.
But the one criticism that always seems to get levelled towards him is he's not faithful to the source material. So with The Watchmen, then, do you think that's probably true? Or
Definitely not. Definitely
I think
not.
he's as faithful as he can be. I think most things that are in the film are in the comic. I think obviously because there's a lot in the comic, there's a lot of stuff that had to be left out. So in that way, it's not faithful. And I think I think there's a sense that in the comic, all the superheroes who aren't Dr. Manhattan are just people in costumes who aren't particularly incredible or superhuman. But in the film, they are depicted as being kind of bigger than life and super strong and super stylish. Whereas in the comic, like Night Owl is depicted as being quite sad in the comic and not very cool. But they make him super cool in the film. And I think they're sort of trying to, in the comic, they're a little bit trying to go. It's a bit like Kick-Ass. They're kind of going, oh, what would the people who would be a costume vigilante in real life be like? They'd probably be a bit messed up and a bit pathetic. But that side of it doesn't really come to the film. It's hinted at, it's maybe a little bit in the peripheral vision of Zack Snyder's peripheral vision while he's making the film, but it's not front and center the same way it is in the comic. That I think he makes the superheroes a little bit too cool. And also, I don't begrudge that, because if you can go to the original comic and that stuff that isn't in the film is still there, and then because he's a very good filmmaker, the fight scenes and stuff in the movie all do look great, and then there's other stuff that is really faithfully adapted from the comic. I love all the stuff that go into Dr. Manhattan's backstory. As far as I remember, most of that is very, very comic accurate, and it was really good seeing that, well performed on screen and realized with, by competent filmmakers. And obviously that Jackie Earle Haley is amazing as Rorschach. I think more or less it is a good adaptation, with a couple of caveats to that, but for the most part, it's a very good adaptation of source material.
Yeah, from my point of view, I agree with you. Watchmen is Zack Snyder's best film. For me, Dawn of the Dead is fine. I can turn it on and have turned it on several times just as a turn your brain off fun. I feel like I'm repeating myself calling it a Friday night movie at this point. And yeah, so I can just put my opinion out there. Dawn of the Dead, the original, Romero's, is my favorite zombie movie. So, and Gabe, I'm pretty sure you and I should have a battle at some point, because I know you were a big fan of Day of the Dead. So, we'll go into that at some point.
I think Day of the Dead is my favourite, but I've not seen Dawn of the Dead for a while, and I would be interested to see it again and see what I think.
Then I think after The Watchmen, his films were Sucker Punch. I haven't seen it.
I haven't either, but I'm kind of interested. It seems like it could be an entertaining mess of a film.
Yeah, because is the basis not it's a girl in a mental asylum, but then is it? Again, I've not seen it, so I'm not sure.
It's notable, I think, for being. I'm sure I heard at the time that it was based on a comic, and I think I heard since then it's the only Zack Snyder thing that's based on an original thing that he's made so far. That everything else is based on a comic or based on a previous film or whatever. And this is that was his first thing that had come entirely from his own. It came from his head. I think it was his script. But yeah, from what I gather, the premise is it's a girl in a mental hospital, and she's got this kind of crazy inner fantasy that she escapes into. But I don't know. I've not seen it. He also did a movie called Legends of Ga'Hoole or something like that. There was a kind of CGI thing with owls.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask there. Has anyone seen the owl film?
Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole. No,
that was it. Yeah, I've not seen that.
I feel like we can just write that off as we're not its audience, though, right? We don't have to bash it.
I don't know. I'll never write something up. I mean, I nearly wrote this off, the Justice League movie, because I just thought, this isn't for me. And I kind of only watched it. I was gonna watch it so I could be because it was the thing everyone was talking about, and I wanted to be part of the conversation. And then you asked me to do this. I was like, oh, that's another reason to watch it. So I was kind of feeling like I was obligated to watch it. And I wasn't that excited about it. And then it really did surprise me. I'm looking forward to talking about that.
The last one about Man of Steel before the time runs out, because that, you know, Gabe mentioned Batman versus Superman, and I think we agree with that. Like, well, I agree with most of it. My big annoyance for Batman versus Superman was Doomsday came far too early.
I mean, I didn't mind it so much because I just like I did think it was maybe unwise to kind of squeeze, because it seemed like they were trying to squeeze like Death of Superman and Dark Knight Rises into the same film. I thought those would maybe benefit from being separate films.
Yeah. Definitely.
But and it's also weird like that they use it because both of those are stories about, like, you know, the Dark Knight Rises is kind of like Batman is old and coming out of retirement and towards the end of his life, and Death of Superman is about Superman getting killed. They're both kind of big, kind of like they're both stories that come kind of at the end of an era, and it's weird that they're at the start of an era. They were weird choices, as like, you know, it was a weird choice to introduce Batman that way as this kind of, you know, brutal, kind of jaded, kind of cruel Batman. But I thought it was interesting. You know, it was not surprising in a bad way, like an interesting decision.
Yeah, Batman v Superman is I quite like Batman v Superman, to be honest. Like, I wasn't like, the thing with me in most Zack Snyder films is like, and it's weird that we now have to review Justice League right away after seeing it, but for me, most Zack Snyder films, I go in, it's kind of a sensory overload, and then I have to sit for a while and think, what did I actually think of that? Like, Batman v Superman, obviously, like, I like the take, like, kind of an Elseworld kind of take, as you say, Gabe, but like, aside from the really terrible, oh, just when these two heroes are ready to fight, Lex Luthor has to come in and tell them the plot, and then, of course, the Martha thing at the end of the fight, aside from that, I think that film's pretty interesting and looks great, and I think Affleck, we don't know what's happening with Affleck and Batman, let's face it, but I think I really like him in that film, and I like the little bits of Wonder Woman we got. So,
yeah, I think my favorite things about it, well, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I thought, but like I liked, like, they definitely did go over the top of making Batman an asshole, but I thought it was like entertaining, and. You know, because I think it was Kevin Smith or somebody said that Batman vs Superman is a film that fundamentally misunderstands both of its main characters. And I thought, yeah, that's true, but it's also like funny, like to the extent to which they've got Batman like literally branding people like cattle, and Superman. I can't remember really anything about Superman in Batman vs Superman. Superman probably does something kind of psychotic. I know he does.
Well, that's the thing, because if you watch the theatrical cut, Superman really isn't in that movie. All of his stuff is only in the extended cut, like pre the fight, I'd say.
I do always think of, it sounds like a stupid thing to say, but I always think of Batman vs Superman as like, you know, the most recent Batman movie, and kind of forget that Superman is in it, even though obviously he's in the title. So I think it does have a big, you know, I think because it has this pervasive atmosphere of darkness and dread and things being miserable and horrible, which you tend to associate more with Batman than Superman. Like Superman comics are often quite silly and hopeful, and colourful. So I think that the kind of the colour palette and the aesthetic of it being quite dark and gloomy and brooding doesn't feel very Superman-y, but it does feel quite Batman-y. So Batman really dominates and consumes the film, even though there is a lot of Superman stuff and Superman universe stuff in it. I think also the fact that that film's version of Lex Luthor behaves a lot more like a Batman villain. It behaves a lot more like the Joker or the Riddler would behave. Also makes it feel more like it's a Batman film rather than a Superman film.
Well, yeah, it's because Eisenberg saw that Heath Ledger won an Oscar and said, "I'm going to chase that."
I like his performance in it. Like, again, I like, you know, like people saying, "Oh, it's not what the character's like. It's not a good interpretation of the character." And I think, yeah, but it is an entertaining one. You know, it is.
Definitely.
You know, and the previous versions that you prefer, like they've not done a George Lucas and gone back to the early Superman movies and digitally replaced the other Lex Luthors with Jesse Eisenberg. Like,
yeah, you make a point because Gene Hackman is my Lex Luthor, but at the same time, hated Eisenberg when I first saw the film, but he's kind of grown on me. It's like he's kind of like the overwhelming cousin you're introduced to when you're 12 years old, but by the time you're both adults, you're kind of like, I can accept you for who you are. Yeah. You know, right? Let's say something about Man of Steel. Man of Steel. I was just going to say.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Man of Steel. I have seen it. Obviously, I'm going to talk about it. I've not seen it in a while, but this one certainly gets a lot of criticism as well. Like, oh, Zack Snyder doesn't get. Me and Peter spoke about this. He doesn't get the plot point. There's no way Superman would kill him at the end. And, like, I don't understand all that criticism. He probably, if he had the choice, he wouldn't kill him. But he's literally going to kill a family. I mean, I think that was the decision that I kind of got through the whole film, that it was saying that you're going to have to make these tough decisions. You know, he could have saved his father, but he didn't because he knew the outcome wouldn't be great or whatever. I kind of felt that was a good final choice, or not choice, but like final hard decision to make in the film. I don't buy the criticism.
Yeah,
but the thing is, Superman, and there's like loads of ways he can solve that problem without killing anybody. He can super speed the family away. He can super speed General Zod away. You know, there's loads of things that he could have done instead.
Yeah, but I think Zack Snyder cleaned up by making it that Zod was just about nearly as good as him. So I don't know how that would have worked. I liked it. It was probably that Snyder thing where it was entertaining to watch him.
Definitely, and like we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about this in the past where that's the whole take on Superman in that film. Like Snyder's take is what happens when this superpowered person who isn't suitable to be on Earth is on Earth, and like, yeah, that's like when breaking someone's neck. Like, there's no subtlety to that because subtlety's out the bag when you're this, you know, flying, super strong X-ray vision character, like trying to find your place on planet Earth. Which
I think
it's not a perfect film, but it's a take.
I like it. I think he's tried to make Superman not the perfect being, because I think, as you said earlier, in the comics, Superman is this hopeful, nothing can beat Superman. He's cheery, and I mean, there's the odd pretty dark Superman, but I like they tried to make him not so perfect, that he was raised in humanity by humans as technically a human, not a Kryptonian.
So, now we will, of course, move on to the main feature of the evening, which is Zack Snyder's Justice League. We've been talking on and off about whether we'd be able to watch this on time to review it, and we all did. So I just want to start out by checking in with you guys. What was your anticipation level like for this movie? Like, just how were you feeling, and did you think it was going to be good, or did you just not want to watch it at all? Or what about Gabe? What about you?
I think I didn't think I was going to enjoy it in the way that I ended up enjoying it, or for the reasons I ended up enjoying it. I kind of at first was, because like I really like the original Justice League is a very bland, forgettable film that I didn't enjoy watching. And I kind of thought, am I really going to enjoy a 4-hour-long version of a movie that I didn't like? You know, I was bored after 2 hours of it. And I didn't realize that how different it was going to be, because I didn't realize the extent to, you know, how much extra material would be used, and you know, how much of Zack Snyder's material wasn't used in the original. I think it was only like something like 10% of Zack Snyder's material was used in the Joss Whedon cut. So I was a little bit worried it was going to be boring, and wasn't sure, you know, how different it was going to be from the original. And then I thought, if it's Zack Snyder's vision, what that'll be is it'll be very well made, it'll look gorgeous, and it'll be entertainingly stupid. and I'll be able to enjoy it on a fun, ironic level and enjoy the fights and the terrible dialogue and, you know, people doing nonsense for no reason. So that's what I was expecting.
Yeah, I was in from the start. I was one of those people that the minute there was even a hint of a Snyder cut, I was tweeting, I was like, release it, protesting if I could. Then every trailer got released, I was, you know, as soon as it got released, I was in it. So my hype was, you know, up here right from the start. I will be honest, I started to get a bit nervous when a couple of days before release, because, you know, you start going, oh, I've bought so much into the hype. Is this going to be awful, and is it going to bomb? So I wasn't actually pleasantly surprised that my hype was where it was. So I was there. Basically, simple answer, I was 100 right from the start.
Yeah, for me personally, this was like I had no idea whether it was going to be good. Like, parts of me are thinking, well, Snyder's films are imbalanced, but like for me, Snyder is a director who there's always something to really enjoy, but there's problems with his movies. So I kind of expected, well, that's probably the kind of film I'm going into. And but at the same time, there could also be the issues of the fact that this is assembled from a shoot that we don't know how finished it was, really. And but one thing I would say in this movie's defense was, after Batman v Superman, which, as I say, I didn't really know how I felt and had to sit on it for a while, but my final feeling on that really should have told me how I felt, because my feeling was, well, that was a mixed bag of a film, but I'm really anticipating Justice League now. So that should tell me I did like Batman v Superman. And yeah, future times have proved that, really. But like, the Justice League we got in 2017 was not the movie I was promised. So yeah, I did myself the favor, whichever way you want to look at it. I watched Batman v Superman again the night before Justice League came on Now TV, and it really just put me right back in that place of thinking, yep, we've stopped here 5 years ago and we're right back where we were to go into what's the next part of this story. I did watch the film twice because, on the happy end of things, I had my first COVID jab on the day the Snyder Cut came out.
Yeah,
I've had
one. It's great.
Cool, you've had one. Cool.
Yeah, lovely.
Nothing.
But the thing was, like, I had my jab, went back to work in the afternoon, feeling totally fine. Sat down that evening to watch the Snyder Cut, and within 10 minutes of the film started to feel incredibly ill and couldn't concentrate on the movie, just going, oh, I need to get through this, but I can't watch the movie properly. So like the next day or whatever, I could like intellectually tell you what was different about the movie from the 2017 version, but I couldn't tell you a single thing I thought about it. So yeah, I have watched the film a second time, so I am going to give an honest review here. So happy eventually.
So I really liked the opening sequence, the kind of slow-mo, like everyone hearing Superman screaming, and thought that opening sequence was better than the entire original cut of the film. But then it got into, you know, like Batman goes to try and recruit Aquaman, and you know, there's the whole thing where, like, you know, Aquaman is pretending he isn't Aquaman, and the villagers don't know who, you know, what he's talking about, and Batman is pretending he doesn't know that Aquaman is Aquaman. And then there's this kind of bit of business where Aquaman and Batman have some cringy banter that doesn't quite work, that sounds kind of stupid. And then the villagers like sing a haunting song while a woman smells Aquaman's fishy jumper. And at that point, I kind of thought, this is exactly what I was expecting it to be. It's kind of pretentious and overblown and very stupid.
That was the moment, right? That was the moment where you felt like, oh no, it's going to be just a cut full of stuff that should have been cut, you know, like.
And it was full of stuff that should have been cut, but like a lot of it was just like it kind of. There's lots of scenes that are really, really, like a lot of it is very well written, which I wasn't expecting. Like the script is actually pretty good, And there was bits that I was kind of anticipating. Like, I remember, like in the original Justice League, the scene where Batman goes and visits the Flash, being quite cringy and having like the Flash has like a meaningless rant about brunch being weird in a way that no human ever would rant about brunch being weird. And I was kind of, oh, you know, that bit's going to maybe be a bit rubbish. But then that we got to that bit, the whole brunch thing is gone. They'd fixed it. It was all good. They'd extracted the brunch thing. I remember being disappointed initially that they cut out Superman's creepy CGI lip, because that was my favourite bit of the original.
I was really hoping that they would leave it on for just a single shot when he first showed up, just to like mess with the audience and freak everyone out. But yeah, that would have been lovely.
So I'm mourning the loss of the creepy CGI lip. I'm thankful for the loss of the Flash's rubbish brunch observations. But then what really got me was like, so there's the whole intro for Cyborg, where you see Cyborg, you know, he's helping his friends pass that he's hacking and changing people's grades, and he's, you know, and he gets in the car accident and he's got this difficult relationship with his dad. And then the whole thing of him becoming Cyborg and helping that lady who's struggling. How spoilerific is this, by the way? I don't know how much I had to say. I should maybe summarize the whole like Cyborg origin story is really beautiful, full of emotional realism, really well written. And there was a scene as well where there's a lot of really like strong emotional realist scenes in it. There was the Flash in jail talking to his dad, and his dad telling him to stop trying to get him out of prison, stop studying to be a lawyer or whatever. And it's totally silent, that scene. Like, there's no music or background noise. There's this really intense silence that really like intensifies the emotional power of the conversation. Really good performances. Lots of scenes lots of very human scenes, people behaving like real humans, expressing relatable human emotions, responding into things in a way that I could imagine real people responding to things. I cried at multiple points in the film. It was very, very strong. But also, like a lot of the action sequences were great. There was lots of great, all the stuff with the Justice League teaming up, and the Justice League fighting Superman, and all the kind of big, like, beginning of Fellowship of the Rings style, like, massive armies fighting each other. Great action scenes, strong emotional realism, which I wasn't expecting. Very, very good. Those are the two things that surprised me the most. So I was expecting the action to be good. But just how real the people seem, how real their emotions seem, how logical and tangible. It made sense in a way that Batman vs Superman didn't. It was a bit amazing that it was by the same guy, to be frank. Like it's very definitely a Zack Snyder film, but there's a lot more substance to it than I was expecting, based on what people have said of his earlier work. I know, and my own experience with it. For a 4-hour film, it really keeps you engaged. It doesn't feel like 4 hours. It really, like, it's not a chore to watch.
Yeah, for me, like, the whole pacing thing that people are talking about is, a lot of people are saying, oh, it's very slow, and like, I actually don't think I think that's being misidentified as the problem. What I think is, obviously you're introducing a lot of characters, and like, I feel like, say if you see Bruce Wayne in one scene, you may not see him again for 20 minutes because of who you're dealing with in between in the first 2 hours. And occasionally for me, that it made me lose the emotional connection and kind of like struggle to get back into a character when I came back to them 20 minutes later in a couple of cases. But for me, it's not that the moments themselves aren't working, because, as you say, Cyborg's origin is really well handled here, and yeah, this movie made me not hate the Flash. Like, and I'm not saying I hate the Flash as a character, I'm saying I hated the Flash in that 2017 Justice League, and now I kind of like him in this movie. And yeah, you mentioned that scene with his dad's. That's like it's very similar to how it was in the 2017 version, but it works so much better, and like, I can't put my finger on it. Like, it's like, what was there just to be, oh, we need to explain who this character is before he meets Bruce Wayne, is now like a genuine moment for that character. And yeah, that really worked for me. So I don't know, it's a different feel that works better here in this film, where the moment's more dragged out and it's more humanist. And yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like, because that was the thing. Like with the first film, I actually, for a lot of it, wasn't, well, like watching the Zack Snyder cut. For a lot of it, I actually wasn't sure. Some things. But there was lots of things that definitely weren't in the original. There were some things I wasn't sure, just because I'd pretty much forgotten the entirety of the original film. And I think a lot of the things I remembered from the original film weren't in this. I think the things I remembered from the original film were creepy CGI lip. The scene where the Flash talks about brunch and it sucks. The bit on the roof where they're talking to Commissioner Gordon, played by J.K. Simmons, who, as you know, is the voice of the yellow M&M in M&M's adverts and has been since 1996. Yeah, so so I might praise something that was in the original film as well. So I totally forgot that it was in the original film as well. But I think like this is a massive film, and I think I've remembered almost everything that's in it, because there's nothing boring in this film. There's nothing, there's no bit in this that you're not like excited or intrigued by what is going on or connected to what's going on. It doesn't lose you at all, which is interesting because it actually isn't a very well structured film. It is a mess structurally. Like it is a bunch of stuff kind of stuck together. Like I think what might be interesting about this film, an interesting like film school challenge for like students to kind of learn editing and how to express themselves in editing, is to give them the Snyder cut and tell them to edit their own film out of it, make it like 2.5 hours long. What do you keep? What do you get rid of? And where do you, and what order do you put the scenes in? Because there's a lot of scenes I felt like, they could have, you could put them somewhere else in the film. It makes much sense. There's lots of scenes that would have worked as the intro to the film. That you could have started the film with Wonder Woman, like, fighting the terrorists, or with the Flash saving the girl. There were 3 scenes in the film that work as an introduction to Aquaman. There is, Bruce Wayne trying to recruit Aquaman. There is Aquaman saving that guy on the boat and then having a chat with Willem Dafoe. And then there is Aquaman showing up to try and stop Steppenwolf from stealing the mother box. So you could like take out 2 of those scenes and choose one to be your introduction to Aquaman. And there's lots of stuff like that in it. There's lots of decisions you could make as an editor of like, what kind of tone do you want? What kind of story do you want to tell? What tone do you want to set? Like you could put the Flash saving the girl at the beginning of the movie to set a comedic tone. You could put Wonder Woman's, talking about Darkseid getting fought off by the ancient Greek people and the Green Lanterns at the beginning to set this kind of epic tone. There's a lot you can do with what's there, because that's another thing that's interesting about what Mark Kermode said, that it's consistently boring. I think that a lot of the scenes do have wildly different tones and wildly different flavors. Like I don't think it is all tonally consistent. Like a lot of the Flash stuff is obviously very different from the Cyborg stuff. It's very different from the Wonder Woman stuff. And I think it'd be an interesting way for film students to express themselves by making their own Justice League cuts with that collection of. Or like what would you pick as the post-credit sequence? Do you pick the like do you just have Batman meeting Martian Manhunter? Do you go with the whole the whole thing with Jared Leto's Joker? Do you maybe transplant Cyborg's vision to the end and have that as potentially the post-credit sequence? There's lots of stuff you could do with it. I think that's very exciting. It made me want to make my own Justice League cut and kind of mess around with it and see because you could do lots of different versions of this movie. There's the wealth of material there. It's very exciting.
Robert, what about you?
Yeah, no, I'm very interested. I agree with most of it. I think I quite like the fact they cut a lot of the Flash's stupid wee jokes. I don't know if anyone really picked up now, if it was maybe just me, but I was the same. Like, I like the Flash as a character, but there's something about the other Justice League films that I just didn't like him. I don't know if it was all the stupid wee jokes, and you're right, the brunch thing just wound me up so much. Like, just shut up, wish for a minute.
I don't know. I don't know if they really, because he's funny in the Zack Snyder. Like, he's got jokes and stuff. He is like the Spider-Man style comic relief, but it works better in the Zack Snyder version than the Joss Whedon version.
Yeah, at the same time, I feel like what Robert's getting at is a lot of the time in the 2017 cut, they would try and replace that with like a catchphrase version of a whole sentence kind of thing, which didn't really work, I'd say.
Yeah. The other thing I liked about it is, I don't know if maybe this is just me, the film being longer didn't bother me. I mean, as you say, I was entertained throughout it, and I think that's usually the thing with Zack Snyder films. I think you genuinely are quite entertained. But I felt like the film explained a lot more than the other Justice League film. And then I know the Aquaman film was made with the intention of Snyder's Justice League, which I think makes the Aquaman scenes a lot more, William Dafoe. I mean, look, more William Dafoe. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, who doesn't like William Dafoe? The man, I mean, he could be the Joker, and I would even bother. I think that's a fantastic Joker. The only weird thing I have got is, I mean, I'm not really into the whole hate Amber Heard thing. It's not to do with me.
She had a British accent.
Yeah,
what was going on there?
And I remember
what was going on there?
And I watched Aquaman right after it, and I'm going, no, she put an accent on. I'm in my head, I'm going, not imagine this accent. And it wasn't till, as you see at the ending, I'm going, oh no, that accent's there in it. That I'm not imagining that. That was the only thing I would say that why, what, where? It confused me and it annoyed me. No, I just feel like, I mean, you have explained everything, so I'm just going to come in with a couple of points. I don't know if it's just me again, I felt like this film redeemed a lot of the characters. I know Ben Affleck seems to always get a lot of, stick for his Batman. I'm a fan. I'd like to see him take a solo film. I know you see all the rumours that Joe Manganiello wants him to be the Batman in what could be like an Arkham Asylum series. I don't know if you've heard that, and he's quite big on his Instagram about that. Joe Manganiello is massive into it. He wants that to be a thing. I would be interested in that. I'd be interested to see Ben Affleck's Batman fight Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke. I think every character, as I say, every character does have a redemption in it. I think we finally see Cyborg getting a backstory. I think helps his character so much, because if you didn't know anything about Cyborg in the Justice League film, I don't know, do you really get him? In the other Justice League film, I don't know if you get him. Whereas in this one, it was...
In that film, he's just a robot that you don't care about. But like in this one, right from the start, even when I'm sitting there feeling like crap after my jab, like I'm just like, I'm like processing the fact, like, wow, they're really doing something with Cyborg here. Like some of the most humanist stuff Zack Snyder's ever done, which,
yeah, it was very much like it was ripped from Justice League War, I think, which is the animated one. I think that focuses on Cyborg a bit, and it's the kind of same. I mean, there he is, although Shazam was in that film. I'd be quite interested to see how Shazam fits in the Justice League. I'd love to see that. But how it's the same Snyder. There he is. He's brilliant. He just wants his father to actually beat at one game, and he's got this whole "you should just let me die" thing. This tool, I don't want this, and it's like the whole overcoming what he thinks originally is a curse. I think that was great. And as you say, helping the family shows that he is human, not just a cold-hearted machine.
See, if we can stick with like improved characters here, let's talk about Steppenwolf. Like something I was not like, I was still expecting. Even after the redesign and everyone's saying, "Oh, Steppenwolf's going to kick ass in this new version," I was like, no, he's still going to be the CGI boring villain. But damn it, they gave him like pathos. This character really worked for me. Like the times when like he had to talk to like Darkseid or Desaad, like, and you just saw like how like his relationship with those characters and how he wants to be back in with Darkseid, but like feels like cast out. That really like elevated his action scenes for me. Like, and like I really felt like in the same way I think we talked about Infinity War recently, Robert, where by the time you get to the climax of that film, you're as invested with Thanos as you are with the Avengers. Like, it kind of did the same thing for me with Steppenwolf in this film.
Yeah, I mean, I think every character I think does have a redemption in this film. He may be the biggest redemption, maybe.
I think Cyborg's still the biggest redemption,
just above.
But he's the second, definitely. Yeah.
But I think the weirdness about a good villain is you kind of want to like feel sorry for him. And am I the only person that just felt sorry for him? Like, how many worlds does he need to destroy before he's allowed back in? I know that's a bit like destroy a world, but I just have to feel sorry for him.
Yeah, you kind of like you relate to him because he's like it's sort of like he's gone through a breakup or something, and he's kind of wanting them. But that's kind of the emotion you get off, and you do feel sorry for him. In the comics, I read this somewhere. I don't know if you are more familiar with the comic version of Steppenwolf than me, but is Steppenwolf not Darkseid's uncle?
Yeah, he is. I don't know much about the New Gods. I don't know much about the New Gods from the comics, but I do remember he is Darkseid's uncle. Like, they reference him being Darkseid's family in this film, but they don't go that far.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I remember from the Justice League, as we'll call it. I don't know if it's just me. Did he look a lot stronger as well? Did you actually get that sense of he's a villain? Like, I don't know why. I just think, honestly, Scrape all that, the mother calls to me and can you hear me, mother? That is maybe one of the best cuts, getting rid of that. I hated all that rubbish. Like, oh, mother, can you... You know what I'm talking about, don't you? I'm not rambling about mothers here. Please agree with me. Getting rid of all that. And they were a bit handy with the blood as well. Like, I noticed every time he swung his massive axe and killed an Amazonian or flung an Atlantean off a brick, there was a wee blood shatter. I was quite handy with that. I also like the alleged Easter egg of his mind reading tools. They were supposed to be oh crap, I can't remember his name now. I'm going to say his name wrong, I know. It's either Starro or it's another DC villain that can read minds using stars. I'm going to get his name wrong.
I don't think it is Starro. I don't think that was supposed to be Starro. I think Starro is rumoured to be the baddie of the new Suicide Squad movie,
which would be interesting.
Which isn't confirmed, but yeah, I didn't get that was. I thought you were going to say like Brainiac, because I thought it reminded me more of Brainiac because it was a very mechanical thing. Where Starro is very much like an organic animal. So Brainiac was going in people's heads. I guess Starro also does that.
I mean, hopefully Brainiac's Justice League 3, maybe.
Well, that's interesting. I want to say, because one thing that's interesting about this movie is it's sort of like, because the DCEU is, that they're kind of walking away from the Marvel, the MCU model, and kind of trying to do this kind of multiverse thing, and they're kind of focusing on standalone, like just making individual films good, which is an approach, and I think that's an approach that's going to probably work well for them. And they've kind of said that they don't really have plans to follow up on any of the loose threads in the Snyder Cut. There's a lot of stuff that I'd be into, like, obviously the introduction of Martian Manhunter. Are they going to use that Martian Manhunter again? Are they just dropped because they start talking about the anti-life equation and Darkseid, is going to come back, and and Granny Goodness was just standing there. Granny Goodness didn't do anything. Like, are they going to follow up on any of this stuff? The answer is no.
Robert and I talked about this before we started, just talking about they don't have intention to do that now, but who knows what the fandom is going to do to them. Like, if they even in 5 years from now try to do and this is all theoretical, a standalone Justice League film, like, that will cause such a reaction in the fandom that I feel like there is no way to tell what's going to happen after this film at this point.
I think they could do it. I think as long as the film was good, they could people will watch these movies. It'll have its fans. One thing, this is a bit off topic, but one thing that this made me think is I would like to see another version of Suicide Squad. Because I think Suicide Squad, as well as a film that watching it, you can tell that there is maybe a good film in here.
Yeah. See, I would say the complete opposite. I thought that the first time I watched Suicide Squad, but rewatching it years later, and thinking, oh, maybe if there was an alternate cut, but watching a lot of the scenes in Suicide Squad, for me, it gives off the impression, no, there wasn't a good film here.
I think obviously, it might have been better if they. Because they're sort of doing that with the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. If they had a more down-to-earth threat, so the premise of the Suicide Squad dealing with this threat rather than Superman makes more sense. And also, it was really weird, so much of the marketing being about Jared Leto's Joker and Jared Leto's, method acting nonsense, or the obnoxious shit he was doing behind the scenes to get into character. They really foregrounded him in the marketing, and then he is in it for like 10 minutes and doesn't affect the plot at all. I think they probably should have made him the baddie, or done something with him to justify like focusing, like making him so much the face of the marketing campaign.
Yeah.
But I think I've heard that because Jared Leto was under the impression that he was going to be more prevalent in it. So there's probably footage of him somewhere that they could use.
Yeah, what I'd say to that is I would be interested in seeing more of the Jared Leto footage from that film, but as for the actual squad, I don't think there's more of a movie there.
I'm very excited about the new Suicide Squad, and after watching Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, I watched Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, and really loved it. Wasn't what I was expecting at all. It was kind of like Kick-Ass or Super, this kind of grimy kind of crime movie crossed with a superhero movie. And I think one thing that's exciting, I think I'm more excited about DC movies at the moment than I am about Marvel movies. Because Marvel movies, like, there's lots of great ones, but they're all like they're all kind of cookie cutter. They're all quite homogenous. They all have a very recognizable Marvel style, and you don't always get, like, there's notable exceptions to this, but most of the time the personality of the director doesn't really come through. To the point where, like, Edgar Wright was kind of penalized for his Ant-Man was too much of an Edgar Wright movie and not enough of a Marvel movie, and he had to leave because there was no way to resolve that dispute because he wasn't interested in doing anything other than an Edgar Wright movie. I don't think he'd have had that problem with DC, because DC seemed to be very good at, each film, the personality and talents of the director comes across. Like the Zack Snyder Justice League movie very much is a Zack Snyder movie, and his vision comes across. And then the Harley Quinn movie is clearly, I can't remember her name, she's very good, very different film, very different style. And then you've got Shazam. I like that the DC movies are kind of different genres and aimed at different audiences. Like Shazam is very unapologetically a kids movie, and Harley Quinn is very unapologetically for a bit of an older audience. It's kind of aimed at the kind of kick-ass demographic. And I'm not saying all MCU movies are exactly the same, but they're all recognizably Marvel movies. But the DC movies just all seem to have their own individual character, apart from the Zack Snyder movies are all quite similar to each other in terms of tone. So that's what excites me, just this sense of, I feel like I'm more likely to be surprised with the DC movies than I am by the MCU movies. But MCU is still awesome, and I'll still watch everything that comes out in that.
Well, I'll agree with you in saying that DC is a roulette wheel, but for me, it's a dangerous roulette wheel at the moment, and I hope that changes in the future.
Yeah. It's like into a firing range with a shotgun. You don't know what you're going to hit. You hit something, but...
Yeah, one last character I want to talk about, because we could talk about Wonder Woman, but for me, she was definitely not a problem with the theatrical Justice League. I like Gal Gadot in that part, and I feel like she's still good in this movie. And talked about Jason Momoa, he's works as Aquaman, but Batman for me is another character who that 2017 cut of Justice League, as we've talked about, Robert, Ben Affleck, we both like him as Batman, and Gabe, you've said you like him as Batman as well.
Yeah.
But it's it's a cool, darker take on Batman, but that 2017 cut didn't listen, because I feel like even the folk who hated Batman v Superman, the one thing that was universally positive was Affleck is awesome as Batman. And then Warner Brothers' reaction to that was to take Snyder's cut of Justice League and totally change the characterization of Batman in it and make him this lighter character, which, I'm just so glad that's not the case in this Zack Snyder cut. I will admit, at the start of watching the cut, I was slightly worried, because I felt like Affleck's stuck in the role of having to be the guy who goes around just saying, I'm putting a team together. And the characters he's bouncing off get to be interesting. But yeah, I'm really glad that we get back to this more damaged version of Batman who's trying to recover after Batman v Superman. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that when we talk about the Nightmare sequence, but that's another character who, I'm happy. Who knows what Ben Affleck's future is, but at least we're getting him in the Flash movie at least one more time.
Yeah, I liked Ben Affleck in this as Batman. I was disappointed that there wasn't a scene of him doing kind of the typical Batman thing. Like, I would have liked if there was, I don't know, a bit where Batman is rescuing a child from the Mad Hatter's gang and gets interrupted by the parademons. That's the sort of thing that happens in the comics. I feel like, one thing that it's a shame with Ben Affleck is he's not really had an opportunity to go against a proper Batman villain, because he's against Superman in Batman v Superman, and he's against the Steppenwolf and Darkseid and the monsters and stuff in Justice League. And I would like to see Ben Affleck's version of Batman, go up against more typical Batman villains, go against a Penguin or a Riddler or a Kite Man or whatever. And I was kind of hoping there'd be something like that in the movie. But still very cool. The whole thing with him in the Batmobile destroying the weird scab base. And all the, oh god, Jeremy Irons as Alfred. I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. The whole thing where he's backseat driving Wonder Woman, which is making the tea. That was very charming.
That was pretty much, whenever anyone asked me about Batman v Superman, that was pretty much my review of saying, well, it's got some good stuff, it's got some bad stuff, but anytime it's just Affleck and Jeremy Irons on screen, the movie's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. But yes, that's I would really have liked to have seen. It's a shame that I don't think it's going to happen now. But like a Ben Affleck solo Batman movie would have been good. It would have been good to see Ben Affleck, fighting a Batman villain. I'm looking forward to Flashpoint, and I hope that maybe can be convinced to do some more stuff. Because I think what I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, is that they're sort of touting that Michael Keaton will kind of become the DCEU Batman, or the kind of the Batman they're focusing on. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard rumors and rumblings that they're going to have like Batman as this kind of old like mentor figure in the movies going forward, and it's going to be the Michael Keaton one, and they're going to try and tie in a lot of the different DC movie properties.
Well, if they want to reset who the Batman is in their universe, Flashpoint is the place to do it. I'm not saying, I'm excited to see Keaton back, but I don't know. I'm not ready to let go of Affleck right yet. So we'll see what happens next year.
I would like if they did a Spider-Verse type thing where they had maybe like Batfleck and Michael Keaton sharing some scenes. I hope that they somehow managed to contrive that.
Yeah, because the one that's actually playing the Ben Affleck, Bruce Wayne's father, is Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yeah.
So I hope to see the big red-eyed Thomas Wayne with that's what I want to see for Flashpoint. Thomas Wayne on about shooting guns. That's what I want to see. Because I don't see point casting Jeffrey Dean Morgan to just play. Oh, by the way, you're just going to be his dad for 5 minutes. When I seen him it's quite an unusual casting because Jeffrey Dean Morgan's quite a
it felt for a while like Snyder was trying to cast the parents of the Justice League as the Watchmen, because Billy Crudup is the Flash's father, who was Dr. Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So, But yeah, obviously, Wonder Woman's mother isn't Silk Spectre, so who knows? That kind of stopped halfway for a bit. Yeah, would have been interesting. Yeah.
He does keep the same people, because I just realised watching the other day that the Owl Man, or whatever, that's right, an Owl Man out of Watchmen.
Yeah.
He's
Night Owl.
That's it. He's the Ocean Master.
Yep.
I remember watching him going, he looks familiar. Then I was like, oh my god, it's the same guy. There you go. I've rambling on now. Ben Affleck, I agree. I would like to see, most of us would like to see his own film. Because I'm interested in the Batman universe that they've created. Like, he's 20 years on or something. He's become pretty cold, pretty ruthless. I would like to see why, like, what has caused him to be. Obviously, we know we see the Robin, and obviously it gets mentioned. But I'd like to see what villains are left. Like, who's left? Like, who's he not gunned down, or who's he not like decapitated or branded? Or I don't know. I just get a feeling like Penguin may have got a doing at one point, and not just that fistic of Penguin's getting his hands or something. I don't know why. I quite enjoy this. The very brutal. I don't know. I just me being quite dark. I would quite like to see I would like to see him fight just a human villain. I think fighting monsters is Batman, but just to fight a human villain, I'm with that.
I'd like that. I kind of thought a similar thing with Joker, where like I wasn't hugely keen on Joker, but I was very interested. Like obviously, like Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, everything he does, but I wasn't so keen on the whole film. I thought it was a bit pretentious and crass. But I was very interested to see what that version of the Batman, like what the other Batman things in that universe look like. So you only see the Joker and the Waynes. There's no, I would be really interested to see what the Batman universe is like in this universe where like Thomas Wayne was a bit of an asshole actually, because Thomas Wayne's usually this. Because in Joker, he's a horrible, nasty man, who's done a lot of bad shit, and he's a kind of evil like capitalist with no empathy. And usually in Batman things, Thomas Wayne is depicted as being this amazing super surgeon philanthropist. So I was interested in seeing like what's the Batman universe like in a universe where the Joker is potentially like twice Batman's age, like more than twice Batman's age, and his older brother potentially, and his his dad was an evil like capitalist, like a version, because that could maybe. I could see, a continuation of Joker exploring the kind of dodgier aspects of Batman, of like, he's a billionaire who could solve crime via philanthropy, but instead he does it by like going and hunting poor people and smashing their teeth out. And, you could have that kind of version of it. We kind of, drawing attention to and commenting on the aspects of Batman that are a bit shit, actually. And then also I'd like that, and I would also like a Ben Affleck movie where it's just, an uncomplicated look. It's Batman being cool and punching dudes. I want all these movies to exist.
Like the warehouse scene out of Batman versus Superman. I want to see him crashing in. The doctor freezes lab and just skitting about without all the catchphrases from Arnold Schwarzenegger, just to see him melting people. That's what I want. The one thing I would say, I felt there was a lot more drive from Batman in this Justice League. I felt like he actually had a goal to bring him back when as soon as he found out. It wasn't just, we'll need him. It was a genuinely, I have to do right by him. Even though he was wanting to overlook the Cyborg basically going, oh no, wait a minute, this may be wrong. I felt like he was driven. He did feel like a more broken Batman, which I don't know. I weirdly enjoy Batman being broken. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that scene where they actually decide to bring Superman back again, it's largely similar, but it's so much better in this cut. Like when they're all, you can see it in their eyes that they're all thinking it but not saying it out loud. Like you can just tell that Bruce has been thinking about this full movie, and like that they're all kind of on that page of like, this is a bad idea, but we need to do it. It really overcame the biggest issue with the 2017 Justice League film, in that the team in this film all contribute and you all feel like they're involved. Like specifically in the final action scene, you really get a Justice League where every member has something to do, and you can see that they needed all 6 of them to overcome Steppenwolf, and I feel like that's the biggest compliment I could give this film. And yeah, if we can just talk about Superman for a minute, like this was the conclusion to, like as I've talked about, this theatrical version of Justice League from 2017 in no way felt like the conclusion I was looking for this Zack Snyder trilogy. This movie did, and like the Superman scenes worked really well for me. Like Lois Lane is not just this presence that needs to be brought in to calm down Superman at the last minute. She actually feels like they're giving her moments of grief, which actually feel, her visiting Superman's toppled monument actually feels like something someone in grief for a loved one would do. And like, yeah, the scenes on the farm, they all just worked really well in kind of rounding off a Superman who's reached the end of his trilogy. And yeah, given that we may not see Cavill as Superman again, like I'm happy I saw that. And also, let's just acknowledge Zimmer's piano theme for Superman can elevate any scene it's put against. Like there were scenes where I almost broke down and like cried when that piano theme was played. Just like even during the watching where I was ill, I was just like, this is making everything work.
Just saying, it feels like, I feel like, that's the thing though. I don't feel like Zack Snyder's Justice League feels like or works as a conclusion. It feels like a beginning. It feels like a new beginning for Superman. It feels like it sets up stuff like Martian Manhunter and Darkseid's invasion and Anti-Life, maybe a film version of Final Crisis. Like, it sets up a lot that probably won't get paid off. I think it is like the end of a trilogy, like by necessity only, because Zack Snyder's original plan was to do 3 Justice League movies and have that as the first one, and so clearly his vision is being kind of cut off before its time.
Yeah, I suppose what I'm saying is it's not that this feels like an ending for Superman, it's that it feels like as a first arc for a character, this is the ending to that first arc that the 2017 film was. Like, feels like Clark's resurrection was handled perfectly in this film and put Superman in a place that Batman v Superman was setting up in a way that the 2017 film just dropped the ball completely on.
I'd be interested to see because I think this would almost work as the first film in the DCEU. If you just set up like 5 minutes at the beginning of Superman dies, because I think it does it does introduce all the characters really well and tells you enough about them to follow the movie, because for most of the characters it was their introduction to the franchise. I mean, I know it's moot because it isn't, but I enjoy imagining the parallel universe. This was the first movie, maybe an edited version of this that flows a little better and doesn't have the slightly more self-indulgent stuff. But I think it would be very strong as a series opener. Kind of because there's that thing people say about the DC universe versus the Marvel universe. They rushed too quickly to like get all the superheroes into the same film and didn't take their time in the same way that they did with the Marvel ones. But I think you could argue that in the same way that everyone knows, how Spider-Man's origin story, I think most of the superheroes in DC's stable are better known than most of the Marvel ones. So they maybe did already have a bit of a head start, and they could have started with a team-up movie and defined themselves in opposition to the MCU by doing a very different strategy. But I think it would have worked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it sounds like in general we're all agreeing this is a vastly improved version of Justice League. So, but up till now we've basically been talking about how the film has improved on stuff from the 2017 cut, but there's a pair of scenes we really need to talk about at the end of the film that completely changed the ballgame, I'd say. So if you've been listening to us and you haven't seen the film, here's where the spoilers will come in, basically. So this is your warning. I'm ready to jump into it right now. Guys, let's talk about the nightmare sequence. And Robert, I know you have a lot on this one, right? You were really anticipating this.
Yeah, I knew there was going to be a nightmare sequence in it. I kind of got my films confused, I was honest with you, because I forgot that the nightmare sequence appeared in Batman vs Superman, and I thought, well, I suppose you could argue it was a kind of weirdly. I mean, they touched on that when Cyborg's vision, so you could say that was it. I kind of got weirdly confused by this one. I mean, I was into it, but I was confused at the same time, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know where I was confused. Like, I like the whole idea that the villains have kind of set aside the. Well, there was only 2 villains, wasn't there? There was Deathstroke and the Joker. Was it my imagination as well? Was the Joker out of focus quite a lot? Or did them else pick up on that? Or was it just my eyes?
He was for about a 10-second period, but it wasn't like in and out. No, it was like there was a single 10-second period where he was totally out of focus.
Blood. And I mean, they spoke more about Robin and pushing it. Do you know what? It was weirdly. One thing I will say, as I confused myself and I'm trying to remember bits here, because I found the whole thing slightly confusing, was they weirdly played on this whole love-hate relationship with Batman and the Joker that I think you see for the animated seasons and the comics and most things, that when there's something bigger, they have usually come together, but not like hand in hand peacefully. They nag at each other. And I don't know if that's what they were trying to go for. Like, if something bigger about, they'll team up, but they will push each other's buttons. It was weird. I really enjoyed that part.
Oh, I loved that. Like, yeah, I totally loved that because, like, it's a aspect of Batman and Joker you don't see much in the live action films aside from the very last Joker scene in The Dark Knight. Kind of alludes to it, of like a stage in those two characters' existence where they've done so much damage to each other that they are the only two things they have left for each other. And like, yeah, Jared Leto, like, I feel like he got to play the Joker he'd always wanted to play in that scene. And yeah, if we don't see him again, it's just a cruel reminder of how awesome he could have been. And yeah, I really liked the scene. Like,
yeah, I kind of, it was another thing in this film that made me think it's a shame that this isn't going to be followed up on. Because I sort of felt like it didn't really, like, it was an interesting scene. It didn't really feel like there was a place for it in the film. Because it felt like, you know, the ending, you know, the ending with Cyborg's father talking over all the heroes doing cool shit felt like a natural ending. And then, you know, Lex Luthor and Deathstroke on the boat felt like a natural post-credit scene. And the Nightmare thing felt a bit awkward. Felt a bit like, oh, there's more film. This doesn't feel like this goes here. It felt like a scene from a completely different film that was kind of awkwardly stitched to this film.
Well, it should be said.
I think circumstances were different. Like, I think it's permissible for them to have done that because it's not getting continued. But ideally, I think that scene would have been a scene in a larger, like, Nightmare film, which would have been. I mean, they might do something with that in Flashpoint. That would maybe be an opportunity to integrate something. Because I think Batman versus Superman, the Nightmare sequence was one of my favorite bits, and I wasn't overly keen on the actual dialogue between Batman and the Joker, but I liked the performances. I felt like maybe, you know, he could have been given slightly better material to work with, but I liked what Jared Leto was doing with what he had, and it was good seeing, you know, that the DCEU Batman and Joker get together finally. But I do think that it didn't really. In an ideal world, that scene wouldn't have been in this movie. It would have been in another movie with more stuff like that around it. Because I want to see that world developed. I want to see, you know, how things got like that. What it's like. Like, whole movie of the Batman and the Joker being forced to work together hasn't really been done, and that's something that would be really interesting to see.
And it should probably be mentioned, the Nightmare scene in this film with the Joker was the scene that was filmed at the end of last year when they knew they were putting out the Snyder Cut, so that's not part of original footage. So probably why, as you're mentioning, it does feel like an awkward insertion, but yeah, from my point of view, it's an awkward insertion that's cool. And in a 4-hour film, by that point, we're kind of accepting that there are bumps in the road. So
yeah, it's because of the context of this movie, it kind of gets a free pass. Where, like, that would see that it did seem awkward, but it was permissibly awkward because, you know, the context of it. With another film, it would have been more egregious.
It was very much like the Injustice kind of saga that DC's kind of got on with some of the comics and the games. You know, the whole Superman being a big bad villain and being used as a tool almost. No, I mean, I'm really interested in the whole Injustice sideline. I think that's quite a good take to go on. As much as it confused me, I would really like to see more of it. But as you say, it was just put in. But then again, we knew it was just going to be put in. It was just whereabouts was it going to go?
So yeah, and the second scene that we need to talk about that's completely new for this cut, which, although as I understand it, Snyder was going to film this before he left the project, so this is part of the original vision regardless. Martian Manhunter comes and visits Bruce Wayne. So this is interesting for me because I like Martian Manhunter as a character, and it's, I don't know, you might say that, like, I don't know, getting into fan theories is, I don't know, it's a weird way to go about storytelling, but I liked the fan theory that General Swanwick was actually Martian Manhunter, and seeing him go that way, that it was really nice, you know, like, just it was a cool little insertion.
Yeah, I liked it because Martian Manhunter is one of those characters. He is very popular, but I don't know why, I just never thought I would see him in a live action film, because I know the rumours came out that he was wanting to put him in it, but then there was, it was actually going to be a lantern that was going to appear. And I just felt like, I mean, Green Lanterns, the Green Lanterns, everybody likes them, but I'm more happy to see Martian Manhunter. I feel like that's a different step to go. Yeah, I seen this as a fan rumour that he was going to play him, and then I weirdly bought into all that as well. Oh, it makes so much sense that when Superman landed in front of me, wasn't he? Like, oh, shock and awe. Like, I don't know, I've really bought into it as well, and then I weirdly liked it.
Then Zack Snyder acknowledged, yeah, that's completely a fan rumor, but it's a fan rumor I like, so I'm going to go with it.
I'm going to use it, yeah. I liked it. I mean, just because, again, as I said, I never thought I would see Martian Manhunter. There's always, like, some of the Justice League characters that tend to just get missed out on certain things. In animated films, they'll go, well, we'll use him, and maybe we'll use Cyborg, but we'll not use Hawkman, or, you know, they weirdly seem to do that kind of thing. I just feel like he wasn't going to be there.
I liked the bit at the end of Martian Manhunter. The thing I think it's the Martian Manhunter scene in Justice League that is more controversial is probably the one earlier on where it turns out that Martha Kent is Martian Manhunter when she visits Lois Lane, because I think that isn't as satisfying as Martha Kent, just because that's a very honest scene where Martha Kent is talking about, you know, what it's like to mourn the real man and see everyone else mourning the icon, and then it actually being Martian Manhunter in disguise kind of subtracts from that. It makes it, you know, that seems like a very emotionally honest scene. And when you make that scene, recontextualize it as a lie, it doesn't work as well in retrospect, and it's also it's a strange decision, because I don't really understand why they did that, because it also means that, you know, you've blown your Martian Manhunter wad prematurely. Him showing up at the end would have more impact if you hadn't seen him earlier on, and it doesn't really add anything having seen him earlier on. So I think that was my only real problem with the Zack Snyder Justice League movie. Is the only thing in the Zack Snyder Justice League movie that I think is on par with, like, the Martha scene in Batman vs Superman, or just like a really wrong-headed creative decision that doesn't really make any sense at all. But I also enjoyed it because I enjoy things when they're silly and bad ideas are fun to talk about. But yeah, with regards to Martian Manhunter turn up at the end, that was just ace. What I do think is interesting is I saw an interview with Zack Snyder where he had an idea that he was going to bring the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern into some version of Justice League.
Yeah, he's been so open really about fun. That. That's incredible.
That would have been like if they'd brought back like the Howard the Duck from the 1980s Howard the Duck movie into the MCU. If they'd got like the same actor and got the same like costume and everything, like that's so bold. And I
the Green Lantern one is an interesting one, because I think Snyder himself says he would rather use John Stewart, which I always find quite interesting, because, you know, I think in the social climate of the world now, I think John Stewart is more likely to be the Green Lantern that he uses. Although if I'm sure my timelines, I'm sure then Hal Jordan has to appear somewhere, because Hal Jordan, I think, maybe the first. I usually get the Green Lanterns wrong.
Is John Stewart like a fictional? Is one of the Green Lanterns? Because I only know Hal Jordan of the comic.
Yeah, John Stewart's the one who was in the Justice League cartoon from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, I do know him then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of the Batman animated series, but I've only seen like 2 episodes of the Justice League one.
Yeah. I think he's much compared to like the Miles Morales Spider-Man. You know, they want to see him, but I think you kind of need to have your other Spider-Man, much like you need to have your other Lanterns. I mean, I don't care what Lantern is, to be honest with you. Just give me a Lantern.
So yeah, that pretty much wraps us up. But I feel like we should do a last roundtable of what are our final thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So Robert, why don't you kick us off?
My final thoughts. I mean, I loved it. I did. I loved it. I was entertained. Like most Zack Snyder films, I think you are always entertained. I didn't really get bored once. I don't really look into films of pacing and stuff, so that's lost on me. I just like the film. I think all the characters were very well. They were redeemed from the other film. I think even the villains were redeemed. And I mean, it's great. There was even just that scene I've just seen, the Omega rays. I'm down for that. Yeah,
I like that too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, would I recommend it? Oh, yes. Restore the Snyderverse. That's me.
Gabe?
Yeah, no, I recommend it. I would recommend it to people who don't give a fuck about DC. I think it's a strong enough movie to stand on its own for like someone who's coming to it without any knowledge of these characters or particular stake in these characters. Which sounds weird for a film that's 4 hours long, but I think it's a bit accessible to the casual viewers because there's so many, there's a lot of real emotion in it. It's very well written. There's lots of really exciting set pieces in it. Yeah, I thought it was incredible. It really surprised me, and I'm sad that a lot of the stuff in it isn't going to be followed up on. But I'm also really excited to see what DC does next because their whole, strategy of doing strong, creators' vision-led standalone films first. I think that's a good idea. I'm really particularly looking forward to James Gunn's Suicide Squad. But anyway, yeah, conclusion. It's fucking great. Watch it.
Yeah, and for me, as I've mentioned, I went on a bit of a journey for this film of being completely sick watching it and just being unable to come up with feelings, even though I could tell you that this movie was clearly an improvement on the 2017 one. So, but as with all Zack Snyder films, my feelings are developing over time, and yeah, I like this film. Like, as I say, I have issues with how things are spread out in the first 2 hours of the movie. Like, just finding it a little hard to get back into characters who haven't been on screen for 20 seconds, 20 minutes rather, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I really like the take. Like, when you see a scene we didn't even talk about, like Darkseid's flashback to him taking on the United Forces of Man, which is really well realized battle. And when you see that as the take of, oh, this is like a world where mythology is hidden right below the surface, and these superpower beings are going to take up and become the new mythology. Like, by the time you get Batman and Wonder Woman leading the Justice League 2 hours in, you just see that dream being realized. And yeah, as I say, this is a flawed film, but it's got some great characters, some great action, and it's a pretty solid take on the film. And like, I got really adrenalized at certain points. And like, as I say, the nightmare sequence at the end had me wishing that the Snyderverse would continue and Batfleck continues. And yeah, as I say, not in my all-time favorite pantheon of superhero films, but as I say, Snyder's films adjust and change for me over time, so maybe that'll happen at some point in the future. But yeah, slightly flawed film, but I liked it overall, and yeah, you should watch it. It's good. So yeah, that concludes our conversation today, guys. And I just want to say, Gabe, thank you for joining us for the first time. And Robert, thank you again for joining me, as with every week.
You're welcome.
Are we going with the plan that we mentioned a few weeks ago of a sort of sequel to our Stallone review by going with his arch nemesis for next week's Spotlight, do you think?
Yeah, nice and simple. Not too thought out. Let's do it. Let's have him.
Let's go for Arnold next week. And yep.
Oh.
So, yep, this has been a long time coming, this episode. And yep, I hope we did this film justice for you guys. Justice, there you go.
Not justice.
Not justice, no. Yes, this is definitely the superior version of the film, and I'm glad we all saw stuff in it that we really liked. And yep, we will be back next week. And until then, have a good one, audience.
I think all three of those things equally deserve the term zombie.
Yeah, I think you just went for diplomatic answer because you thought it was going to be Peter versus Robert, Donna Justice.
I mean, it's just,
no, I will go with it. Fair enough.
It's just, it's just objectively true, and also conveniently resolves this debate, so we can get back on track.
Hated Eisenberg when I first saw the film, but he's kind of grown on me. It's like he's kind of like the overwhelming cousin you're introduced to when you're 12 years old, but by the time you're both adults, you're kind of like, I can accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
You know,
would it not be Kevin Spacey? No, do you have a mention?
I think they should definitely replace Kevin Spacey digitally with Jesse Eisenberg.
That'd been it. I'd probably make that film slightly better. It'd be quite more interesting.
I've
never seen that.
Get Christopher Plummer to just replace. Oh no, Christopher Plummer's dead now.
Yeah, he's dead.
Christopher Plummer to replace Kevin Spacey and everything, but no, it's no longer possible.